President Patel, you'll coordinate that? Okay, good, thank you. Next, we are on agenda item C, Merced Community College District and CSEA Chapter 274 Agreement. President Patel?
Yeah, it's my pleasure to present to you the district and CSEA negotiated agreement for 2018 to 2021. This was ratified by CSEA Chapter 274, and it's my recommendation that you approve this agreement.
Okay, thank you. We have a recommendation. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by Trustee Ochoa and a second by Trustee Mendoza on the side. Any questions or comments by members of the board on this? Okay, seeing none, I'll call. Are there any questions or comments from members of the public? And I see one.
Good evening again.
Good evening. As promised, here you are.
Yes, Terry Platt, and I am our chapter president. I just want to publicly thank the negotiators, both from CSEA and from administration and staff, that diligently worked hard to come up with a fair agreement. We're considerate of all of the points, I think, from both sides. This is a good agreement for our employees, and we're very thankful and appreciative. And I just wanted to enumerate a vote that was taken for adopting the articles that are contained in this agreement. That vote was 181 in favor, 7 opposed.
Wow.
So there was huge consensus of the employees that this is a fair deal, it's a respectful deal, and myself and our chapter would strongly encourage your support and approval of this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight there. Any other questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Levis, how do you vote? Aye. Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And on behalf of the board, thank you to the members of CSEA for their contribution to the college. I'm glad that the agreement reflects that on both sides.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Agenda item D, District Police Officers Association, public comments and board adoption of initial proposal successor agreement. President Patel.
Yeah, I recommend that you hear comments again. This is the second time public comments for this, and officially adopt the proposals to begin the negotiation process, so effectively sunshining these articles.
Okay, thank you for that. So this is the second reading, and as President Patel stated, are there any questions or comments from members of the board? Concerns? Seeing none, what is the pleasure of the board as to this item?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I heard a chorus over there, so I heard Trustee Pedroso as a motion, Trustee Gutierrez as a second. Any questions or comments on this?
You're missing the sounds of who's doing it.
I am?
I think Sue did most.
I made the motion.
I heard Sue and Pedroso.
It doesn't matter. He can have the motion.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sue. Trustee Chappelle. Okay, any questions or comments by members of the board? Any questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, at this time we'll call for the vote. Trustee Lemus, what is your vote? Aye. Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda item is a resolution honoring Women's History Month. I know that we all got a chance to read the resolution. Are there any questions or comments? Otherwise, I'd look for a motion on this item.
Board President Ramirez, in the past resolutions that we have approved as a board, they've always included some historical background and they mention well-known public figures with their, impressive accomplishments, and I didn't see that in this resolution.
Because my accomplishments were too long for the page there. But so noted, yeah, there is a lack of biography here. Do you have a recommendation as to?
I'd like to hear from the rest of the board if that is something that this resolution should include. I'd like to hear some other opinion.
Is there a motion on the floor
Not yet.
before we discuss?
You guys can certainly entertain a motion for this, or you can take no action on it. It is the end of the month, so if you defer this to April, you will be retroactively recognizing it. This is the resolution template you've used for many years, so in future years, perhaps we could have a few of you help draft it in advance if you'd like to change it, but that's completely up to you all.
I think we've done that in the past for other resolutions. Okay, so what is the pleasure of this board?
I move to approve as is, and then we can look at modifying it for the future.
Okay,
I second.
okay. We have a motion and a second. Motion by trustee Gutierrez, second by trustee Chappelle. Would this be approved as is this year with looking at it next year? Any questions or comments by members of the board? Questions or comments from members of the public? Okay, seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Lemus, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next, we're on agenda item F, resolution authorizing the investigation of the feasibility of local facility funding sources. President Vitelli?
Yes, I'm asking for direction from the board regarding looking at facility funding sources. As you know, it's been quite the battle to get the funds for our Ag IT building. It looks like we're in the budget, and we're hoping we stay there as the May revise comes out in June, in May, and then the final budget in June. But this district has not explored or gone after a bond since 2002. Those of you familiar with school districts know that a lot of districts go out every 5 to 7 years. For us, we had a very healthy bond pass for both the Los Baños community as well as Merced, and we have had the luxury of building several new buildings. That being said, the state is providing fewer and fewer funds for ongoing maintenance, for upkeep, to take care of our current buildings, but also this is a college that has buildings that are pushing 50 and 60 years. And some buildings simply have seen better days. And so at this point, what I would like to know from this board is if you authorize me as the president to investigate what a local bond might look like, meaning you give me that direction, I collect data from the community and then come back to you with that data for you to discuss maybe in a study session if you all want to pursue going after a bond in 2020 or even looking at other facility funding sources. But this is the first step because this is a big action. This really should come from the board, and this should be direction that you all give me and my staff to explore and then come back to you on. So I'm recommending that you authorize this investigation.
Okay. Any questions or comments by members of the board on this? Trustee Chappelle?
Is it going to cost a fortune to investigate?
Yeah, I don't know. What we'll do is
Because it's sort of like a carte blanche, go ahead and investigate. And
no,
I kind of want to know maybe
you
some
all would
parameters.
approve a contract. So what I would do is we would contract out with the strategic campaign firm that works with the college districts throughout the state. Talked to a couple other presidents, and they've given us the best to use. And we would bring that to you in the April board meeting and invite them to come give a presentation to you all. We're looking at, overall, if we go through this entire process, contracting with the firm would be about $30,000. Doing a local survey, anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000. Ours is a little more complicated because we have gone out for bonds and separated out our service area, which is unusual. Not very many districts do that, but we have found that in the past, going out for one in Los Banos and going out for one here is advantageous. So it costs a little bit more to do 2 separate surveys and look and disaggregate that data. But for this initial stage, we're looking at about $60,000. That will come back to you guys as an action item in April. Relatively speaking, when you go out for bonds, that would be 150, 200 million. That's a small amount of money to spend up front. The other piece to that is, by law, there's a certain point where we would not be able to spend general fund dollars anyway. So if you all decided that we were going after a bond, there would be a point where we would then ask the foundation to help raise private dollars to fund the campaign, which is completely separate and outside of general fund, and we would ask that they come alongside of us. I've had a good conversation with Jill about that. She's talked to the board president of her foundation about that. We have their support if that's the direction you all choose. But that's just getting ducks in a row in case you decide to go in that direction. But I know that was a long answer to your question, but relatively speaking, no, it will not cost us a fortune.
Well, I don't know a lot about bonds and how they work, so to be educated on how the bond thing works would be important for me.
Yes, I've actually been candid with you all that I'm learning too. So I think that a study session would be in our future, most likely once we get the survey results back. A good 3-4 hours learning about the bond process. Some of you have gone through this, you know, and I've been picking the brain of President Ramirez and Trustee Petrozo and others who have gone through this before. Trustee Upton has with other school districts. So, you know, part of it is learning and learning the laws and what we can do, but that's why districts bring in consultants for this. It is highly regulated. There are a lot of nuances to it. You don't want to go down this path and it not be feasible. You don't want to go down this path and it not be something that we have the support of the community. And that's why this is the first step to say, okay, look into it, come back to us, give us information, let's talk about it more.
I have a comment for,
Sure. Trustee Gutierrez? And then Trustee Ochoa?
if we do this a bond measure in 2020, I think right now, the way the economy is, I think it'd be beneficial to do it now. When the economy is robust, then people tend to be a little happier about paying more taxes for more facilities and education. So I would be in favor of giving the study to see if it's this feasibility study and see where we go from there. But I wouldn't want to waste too much more time.
Trustee Ochoa?
Well, the 2020 election is right around the corner, and it feels like we're taking a very aggressive approach to this. And you know, in my experiences, nobody likes to vote. You know, there's always that sector of the community that, no matter what it is always in opposition of increasing taxes. So I'm curious as to, and hopefully President Vitelli can shed some light on this, but you stated that the last bond we passed was back in 2002. What was the community reaction back then? How was it well received? Was there a huge opposition? And maybe, if not President Vitelli, maybe somebody else.
Yeah, the one here in Merced was it passed by a little over a percentage point, but the one in Los Banos was passed with a lot larger margin of victory. Both of them passed. They were concerned a little bit for the one in Merced, but That is, Trustee Ochoa, what the purpose would be for you to have this firm come in and do a community survey. They will then poll the community and then bring that data back to you all on the pulse of what this community, one, thinks about Merced College going after public funds, what they would support if we were to go after them, what they would maybe be opposed to supporting, so we can find the pulse of the community. You might get the survey results and find out that they're not interested in us going after a bond at all, and it would be a waste of our time, money, and resources, and decide that this district's not going after it. So you're right, though. I mean, anytime we're talking about someone's pocketbook, and rightfully so, they should be asking those questions. We would have to do a lot of work on our end. And to speak to your comment about the timeline, it's truncated, and the reason it is because the California primary has been moved up, and it was in June, now it's in March. And so part of the survey too is discussing timing. Is a March going after a bond good for us in March, or is it in November? And that's something you all will have to decide once I bring the data back to you and we discuss that. But these firms are like a well-oiled machine. In fact, I talked to one of my mentors at another college that used this exact group, and they got the largest bond they've ever gotten for their community several years ago. So we would certainly rely on their expertise and support to guide us through the process. They would give you all a projected timeline on how to make all this happen if we decided to do it. But again, it's ultimately up to this board if we go in that direction, once you get the data.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Trustee Pedrosa, and then Trustee Upton.
I'm in full support of doing a feasibility study on this, and just because, it's like President Vitale said, they answer questions, whether it's for roads, schools, but in my past experience, whether it was on the high school board, which we did one there, the county, we did numerous Measure V, finally passed, and when we did the Measure V bond, I think we did a study, and we only had like 6 months to get that, and it was a 60+1, and I think it ended up taking 67%. But these people get paid for this, and they're not going to give us, I mean, if they give us the information and say that it's not worth it, and then we just decide not to do it. But, I mean, they cover everything. They dot all the I's and cross all the T's to where, I mean, they're going to try to do all they can to make it work so it's viable. And in my past history, as far as when it comes to education, people want to see, it prosper and continue to prosper. And I think this is a good tool to make it happen.
Thank you. And then Trustee Upton, and then Trustee Gutierrez.
My sense is if we're going to go out after a bond issue, we need to do it fairly soon because interest rates are going to go up, and we want a bond issued with a low interest rate. It's easier to finance. Right now it's what, 2%, Chris? 3%? Yes, that's figure.
Sounds right, Dr. Upton, sounds right.
Yeah, I follow these.
All right. Good insight.
I can't invest here.
Good insight. Trustee Gutierrez, you had a comment?
I was part of the bond measure that was passed in Los Baños for a new school and some upgrades in the existing schools. And the community was very supportive, and I think it passed like 70%, something like that. And I know that now if we bring the 2020 bond for the college, the community over there is very supportive. And I think even though we just passed the one for the elementary school, then as long as we show support that we're going to build facilities and do this and that for our college over there, the community will support. And this group that came in to give us the study, like Trustee Pedrosa said, they're very effective. So I don't, I think it's worth everybody to go after that study.
Okay, Trustee Upton?
Yeah, and one of the things, or one of the reasons Spanish gets a good vote in for it, because it's a younger community and they're more likely to vote for it because they have children coming in, an older group like Chavo with a lot of older people, but they can't afford it. The taxes go up because their income doesn't go up. But now's the time to do it, because you wait 2 years and you probably pay 2% more.
Any further questions or comments on this item? Okay, what is the pleasure of this board as to the item?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion by trustee Pedrosa to
Second.
approve and a second by trustee Gutierrez. Any further discussion by members of the board? Any questions or comments by members of the public? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Trustee Levis, how do you vote? Aye. Thank you. Okay, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Next is agenda item G, Merced College Community District and Merced College Foundation Farm Lease Agreement. President Vitale?
Yes, it's my pleasure to present this to you all. I've had conversations with each of you explaining the details. This is a unique agreement that I'm presenting to you all. I'm not sure that there are other districts who have such agreements in place, but I want to first publicly say that very thankful for the work that our Executive Director and Associate Vice President of External Relations has done, Jill Cunningham to work with Raj Kalin on the license agreement that you see in front of you. This will, no matter how you slice it, and there's a million ways to look at this particular agreement, this will be the largest gift that the Merced College Foundation has ever secured. This is a license agreement. This is not a lease agreement. There is a difference legally between the two. A license agreement allows us to assess the benefit that it brings to the college, as well as reassess it anytime this board so chooses. What essentially is in front of you is a license agreement that will establish almost 100 acres of pistachios on what we have often called Craft Ranch, which before this agreement, at best, we brought in $25,000, $30,000 a year on, some years not anything. This will establish an orchard that will be there for 100+ years. So pistachios don't start full production until year 10. So what Mr. Kalin has offered is to spend his dollars to establish the orchard and all expenses associated with that, and then start giving the college at least $100,000 a year at year 7. He has indicated numerous times that he hopes this is the beginning of his giving to Merced College. He is, if I could speak for him, he has also been nervous about such an agreement, just as I have been, and Jill has been, and many of you have asked questions about. But make no mistake, this is a fantastic opportunity, in my opinion, for